One author believes that the CDC's eviction moratorium is a ticking time bomb. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming from a source that I don't usually use because they're a little bit more conservative and a little bit more biased towards, one political side than the other. But in this case, I believe that it is the perfect article to kind of state what I think in a little bit better clarity than I could. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I really, really do appreciate all of the subscribers. I just passed 1,000 subscribers for the first time, and I'm super excited about bringing you articles that are of interest to landlords. So this article comes from the Foundation for Economic Education, and it says, the CDC just proved Milton Friedman right again. Let's see what it says. I hate to say I told you so. Well, actually, I really enjoy saying I told you so. And when it comes to the CDC and its pandemic power grabs, I indeed tell you so. In September 2020, I wrote that from draconian lockdown powers to taking over the rental housing market, it's extremely unlikely our elected officials will cede all the authority they've seized during the pandemic. We're now witnessing my prediction play out in real time. Under the Biden administration's purview, the CDC just unilaterally renewed its so-called eviction moratorium. It did so after the nationwide near ban on eviction of non-paying tenants expired on Saturday, and in spite of Congress not passing legislation to renew it. The new CDC order is somewhat more limited than the original one, claiming to only apply to areas with substantial and high levels of COVID-19 community transmission. But this reportedly applies to roughly 90% of the U.S. under the CDC's definition. The 2-month extension will now run until October 3rd, when presumably there will again be a push for its extension. Yeah, and that's exactly what I've been saying too. Every time they extend it another time, that means they're only dragging out the pain, okay? They're only making it worse. And then come October, they're going to try this again. They're going to be, oh, no, we can't let those people be evicted now. They've already extended it 4 times, okay? That was the 4th time they've extended this, eviction moratorium stuff. And, this isn't temporary anymore. This has become a permanent eviction moratorium. The emergence of the Delta variant has led to a rapid acceleration of community transmission in the United States, putting more Americans at risk, especially if they are unvaccinated, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, director of the CDC, said. This moratorium is the right thing to do to keep people in their homes and out of congregate settings where COVID-19 spreads. The CDC is renewing this policy yet again, even though the Supreme Court only narrowly upheld its last iteration. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh specifically wrote that clear and specific congressional authorization would be necessary for the CDC to extend the moratorium past July 31st. Short version, the CDC doesn't have the authority to do this. And guess who agrees? The Biden administration. White House officials have repeatedly acknowledged that the federal government lacks the constitutional authority to renew the order without Congress. Yeah, they acknowledge the fact that they don't think it's constitutional, okay? Brett Kavanaugh, he really, really screwed this up. I've said this in several videos, okay? He should have voted to end the eviction moratorium immediately. Okay, there was no reason to wait until the end of July to make it expire, because now by not doing that, it basically left the door open for them to pass yet another eviction moratorium. Okay, instead, he should have cast it out. They should have cast it out, said, hey, this kind of thing is unconstitutional. Okay, any kind of eviction moratorium is unconstitutional. It doesn't matter if it will supposedly help someone somewhere. Okay, you can't take someone's rights away, their property rights away. That is against the very nature of this country. against our very founding rules and regulations found in the Constitution. and they want to take our rights away so that maybe a few people could, not face eviction. It's wrong. It's purely wrong. And, they could go even further and take our other constitutional rights away by the same measure if that's the case. Declare a health emergency and take away our freedom of speech, our freedom of religion, our right to bear arms. Who knows what they could do? But, the CDC does not have the authority, and they never did. But this renewal is more than just an example of flagrant lawlessness and unconstitutional government overreach. It's yet more illustration of the principle described by Milton Friedman when he said, "Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program." The Nobel-winning economist argued that we should be wary of temporary expansions of government power because more often than not, they will become permanent, or at least part of the expansion remains. Why? Well, as Friedman explained, temporary programs establish an interested constituency that lobbies for their continuation. Essentially, the public will acquiesce to more than it otherwise would under the promise that the infringement is temporary, but then the intervention will benefit some key party so much that they will fight to keep it in place permanently after public scrutiny fades. And that's exactly what happened with this eviction moratorium, okay? They said, oh, this is a temporary thing. Next thing you know, you have a lot of progressives, camping out in front of the Capitol building in protest, and they put so much pressure on Biden that they extended it, and this is in spite of the fact that it's unconstitutional. Even setting aside the fact that the first order was flagrantly unconstitutional from the get-go, it never made any sense. Ordering a halt to evictions without compensating landlords is like passing a law saying anyone may go into a grocery store, load up their carts with food, and walk out without paying. Applying this broken logic to rentals bankrupted many middle and working class landlords and led to many rental properties being taken off the market altogether. The moratorium has also created a $21 billion backlog in unpaid rent and millions of evictions that will occur when it is allowed to expire. Costs that grow even bigger with every day it is left in place. Yeah, the problem only grows bigger, okay? And the evictions, they will eventually happen, okay? Unless our entire country collapses and becomes 100% socialist, this will end. Now, I'm not saying that won't happen. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. It doesn't seem likely that it would happen, but we cannot allow this eviction moratorium to go on forever, okay? And this Milton Friedman, he was absolutely right, okay? This temporary eviction moratorium is now being dragged on longer and longer. And the whole premise of, it's just temporary. This is a temporary loss of your constitutional rights. There's no such thing as a temporary loss of your rights, okay? It becomes permanent. And this is a prime example of that.